Hello and welcome to Choose You. This is the Mrs. Globe powered IGTV show that will inspire you to your life's crescendo by showing you how to choose you each and every day, every step of the way. I'm very excited. This is actually my second Choose You show. And again, thank you to the Mrs. Globe organization for powering it for me and getting everything going, providing the platform for us to talk about these super important issues. Again, if you're just now joining us, I apologize for the 2-minute slight delay. We had some technical difficulties. It's kind of the world that we're in, right? Going through this whole pandemic and everything. But again, you are watching Choose You, the Mrs. Globe powered IGTV show that is going to inspire you to your life's crescendo by showing you how to choose you each and every day, every step of the way. So I'm incredibly excited for today's guest. You guys have been seeing me promote it. It is Thrett Brown. He is just a powerhouse in the Washington, greater Seattle area community. He has a powerful story, and I'm excited to just talk with him and just dig deep in how he chooses himself every step of the way in spite of all the challenges that he has been through. Again, he has created programs for the youth. He is a pillar in our community, and he has overcome so much. And like many of us right now during this time, especially in the pandemic and where there's been job loss and pain and people passing away, we need something that's going to inspire us to want to say, you know what, I can still choose me even in the midst of this dark time. So I want you guys comment and let me know where you guys are at and where you're watching from. I do see Thrett is on, so I'm very excited about that. And let me know where you guys are hailing from. I see my mom. She's such a great supporter. My first show, I kind of did like the hi mom. I thought that was funny. But anyway, so I'm very, very excited. I see people are logging on. This is going to be, again, a great show. Trying to do this thing called life just regularly, inclusive of all the other things that we have to face every single day, right? It's just so challenging. So if you can just, carve out 30 minutes of your week to log on to Choose You and find out like, hey, I can get a little bit of this or a little bit of that to try to do this thing called life. I encourage that. So I am thank you. Oh my gosh. I love it when my Globette sisters compliment me. I think I've heard that I'm beautiful more in the last year than I have in probably my last 40 years of living. So anyway, it's just been just an honor and a blessing. So what I'm going to do without any further ado or any delays, I'm going to go ahead and bring on our special guest because you didn't come to hear me talk. You came to hear about this powerful person, and I'm going to go ahead and accept him on right now. And he should be joining us here shortly. Fred, if you can hear me, I think you can just accept, Oh, there we go. Oh, I see your car. Odometer. There he is. Okay, all right. There he is. I can't really hear you. I think, are you on mute or something?
Let me see.
Oh, there we go. Okay, not anymore.
You can hear that?
Yeah,
Right?
there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's what's up, man. I was getting nervous for a second there.
I know, no, that's okay. I know that you are all the way in Louisiana right now, so thank you for taking time out of your day and out of your travel schedule just to, okay, we're back looking at your odometer again. Okay, there we go. Mr. Brown, we want to look at you, so you got to keep the camera facing you, okay?
I'm doing my best.
You're supposed to be practicing. You're supposed to be like, okay, what do I do? I'll just go. All right. So again, you guys, we have live online today for the second edition of Choose You, powered by Mrs. Globe. We have Thrett Brown. Now he hails out of Tacoma, Washington. Currently, he is in the South in Louisiana. So he's a couple hours ahead of us, but he's still taking the time to just kind of share. Now, Thrett, you call yourself a poverty survivor and, just kind of a community advocate. And I definitely want to unpack that. Those are very powerful titles to kind of call yourself, right? To whatever extent you feel comfortable, can you share with us just a little bit about your testimony and kind of how you, I don't like to say it, but maybe earned those titles, if you will, and just, walking through your life. And there you go. Stop touching the screen, right? You're making it go.
Hands is right here, man. Seriously.
Okay. All right, sir.
Again, I appreciate you having me on here. This is a blessing for me to be able to participate with your network and, share my experience and share my testimonies with your viewers and people that are tuned in. A lot of my people are on here too. I appreciate you guys showing up and supporting the Miss Globe channel. So continue to subscribe that and follow that to your fullest ability and share with others so that way they can do the same thing to perpetuate this activity of sharing, right? And so personally with me, before I break down the poverty survivor and the community advocate, my story is typical, and when I say typical Black man story. Grew up in a single parent home, my mom and three sisters. My dad passed away when I was like 8. I never got a chance to really know who he was. I remember certain things like his vehicle and his cars and things of that nature, right? And so grew up, been in a foster home, me and my family moving shelter to shelter, city to city, state to state. So we've been moving around a lot. Non-military, but my mother moved around as if we were in the military, which was a blessing and a curse at the same time for us as young people growing up, because I don't have a sense of childhood friends, of longevity. Mm-hmm. However, I know people, right? And so I feel that was the blessing that came from that. And ultimately, fast forward, I'm originally from Louisiana by way of Mississippi, right? And we moved to Seattle, back to Seattle in 95. Because originally we lived in Seattle in 1989, 98, 88, 89. We moved there from East St. Louis. And so when we went back to Seattle in 95, I had this sense of, and it's something important for young people to realize too, especially young men. Me growing up in a house full of women, I had a lot of, as a kid growing up, I'm going to fix that. Please don't mind that. I had a lot of feminine quality.
Well, at least we know you're not driving because your odometer
right?
is great.
And so, I had those qualities and those traits, and that was something in that, I started to not like as I grew up, right? And so I can't be upset at no one. I just had to understand that my circumstances was a lot different. And so to a lot of young men who grow up still in single parent homes, which is just their mother and predominantly more sisters than it is brothers, they got these certain traits. And so I was in search of a masculinity, right? Mm-hmm. And so in the process of me seeking masculinity, because I thought that was the thing to do and the way to become. And so in seeking masculinity, I turned to the streets. Granted, I grew up around violence my whole life for the most part. My mother was a very aggressive woman. She'll beat up dudes, and I done seen her beat up dudes left and right. And so there was a picture that was painted, and so me moving to Tacoma, it turned me to the gang culture. So I in an environment, I seen people that I could probably potentially resonate with. And so when I started connecting with these brothers, I got submerged into that culture and I got submerged into that lifestyle. My first time shooting a pistol, was like 16, 17 years old. And when I shot the pistol, I felt empowered, so I felt real strong, so I felt like this is masculinity. And then, so I got deeper and deeper into the game, and moving forward from there, I ended up getting incarcerated in 99 from a place in Tacoma called Chocolate City. And Chocolate City is it's a pretty robust when it comes to violent community out there in the Pierce County area. And so I caught my charge there, just surrounding myself with the wrong people. I have friends that I felt were beneficial to me. And I didn't realize, and that's the thing about young people, they don't realize how toxic their friends are, because there's a difference between finding masculinity by toxic.
Thrett, there's something that you touched on, Thrett, there's something you touched on, and you talked about identity, and we're talking about the whole choose you. A lot of times when people, actually, my mentor even said this last week on the show, if you don't even know who you are, how can you choose yourself, right?
Right.
So I think it sounds like you were really searching for that, right? Whether it's masculinity, or just a sense of, more family, or whatever the case may be. So with those things in mind, I guess I would like to know, at what point did Thrett say, I'm going to choose myself and change this narrative, change this typical, story, if you will, because, there's going to be a point where hopefully with men like you in the communities, it won't be so typical anymore, right? So at what point in time did you decide, hey, you know what, like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is not what I want to do. I want to change that narrative, and then also talk about how you took that to a whole nother level as well by creating programs and actually becoming an advocate and becoming a life coach and all these other amazing things that you are now. How did you take that, what you just kind of shared with us, And what was your crossroads where you said, I'm going to change me, I'm going to put me first and figure this out so I can actually help other people?
So I got out of prison in 2005. I got out in '05 and I was 20. So I got out in '05 and it was about a year and a half. I was doing pretty cool for the first year out. And then towards that last 6 months of me being out, I started to dabble back into old habits, and I got with a group of cats that I used to run with back in the day. And we started making moves again. I was big on strong arm robberies and, just holding people up, right? And so that was my thing for generating revenue. And then so one day I decided to say, I was like questioning myself, like, what am I doing? I done lost my friends to this lifestyle, and I have to do something different. And so it was like morning, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I went outside in my homegirl's backyard, and I had a shotgun, and I was like, and I started crying, and I was like, Father, what do I want to be a provider for my family. I want to pave the way. I want to get us out of the situation. The only thing that I know how to do is this lifestyle, And so as I'm crying at 3 o'clock in the morning in the backyard, the Most High spoke to me. He said, "Use your mouth. It's in your words." He said, "Use your mouth. Use your mouth." And I just kept hearing, "Use your mouth, your words, your choice of words." And so I threw my shotgun in the bushes, and I got rid of my pistol that next morning. And that's when my journey began. Because then I was like, okay, so it became more of a what am I versus a who am I? So then I knew it was something bigger than myself in the physical aspect. So we get to tapping into spirituality and spiritual awareness and conscious minds. And so I wanted to know more about my spirituality. And so I shot out, and that's when I started traveling I've been to over 13 different states since I got out of penitentiary. And when the Most High said, when you go, I'm gonna clothe you, I'm gonna feed you, I'm gonna house you, I'm gonna provide you with the source of transportation. And so Columbus, Ohio, Texas, St. Louis, Pensacola, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida.
Now, were you speaking in those places? Like, what places were you going to, and you were kind of sharing your story, or when you talk about using your words, because it is very powerful. Again, the president of Mrs. Globe also talks about manifestation, right? And about, she's very big on spirituality and tapping in. So I hear you saying a lot of those very same things. So can you maybe unpack a little bit specifically for people who are watching, like, what does that even, what does that actually look like? What did it look like for you to actually, kind of take control of those thoughts and start speaking life? And then when you had those opportunities to travel, what exactly were you, speaking about as far as action steps for people so they can either get out of those types of situations or avoid them or empower them?
Okay. So originally I asked a few of my friends, I said, y'all should travel with me. And they was like, what? Travel with you where? I said, LA is the first place. We never been to LA. So nobody wanted to go to LA and even get submerged in the community. And so my mentality was negative. I was very aggressive. So I have to be in an aggressive environment for me to feel content. I can't go to the suburbs where it's subtle and quiet because I'm gonna feel out of place, right? And so a friend of mine named James was like, I'll go wherever you want to go. White boy. And I was like, all right, bet. And so he ended up going. I said, but if it ain't violence in the community, if it wasn't a murder or a killing or an assault on that same street that you living in, then don't invite me. So everywhere he seemed to go, it was always violence. He was like, the girl got shot in the face over here. And so I was like, okay. And I shoot down to the city. And so when I get there, it wasn't about speaking to events, and it wasn't about speaking to programs and organizations. It was about going into the hearts of these communities. That aggressive communities. And so by me inserting into those communities, I started building relationships with the locals. So I started connected with, the authentic people, the factors of that community, the ones that they would look at as the people to talk to whenever the city moves and stuff. So those are the relationships that I was building. And that's something that people are afraid to do, because when you environment and it's aggressive, you don't want to go there because you don't know if somebody's going to shoot you. You don't know if you're going to get caught up in the wrong situations. But that was my perspective. I needed to go there. And that was one thing, to find out what I was in regards to relating to these people that I don't know. And I was embraced by those people.
Would you say that was a part of your actual healing? Because I know that it was kind of reversed for me in my healing journey, where I would do a bunch of other things to distract me from the fact that I was broken. And so when I actually stepped away from that, I kind of went into like a whole background hiatus for about 3 years and stepped away from doing things to focus on Tasha. So you're kind of saying in reverse, where you actually went back into those communities and, you know, linking arms with those people that most people are afraid to tap into, seem to be a part of your healing. So would you say that, you know, that was also kind of a part of you choosing and identifying, you know, who you are by going back into those communities and being hands-on and rolling up your sleeves, which, like you said, a lot of people are not willing to do?
Yeah, that was a major part of my healing because it showed me that I don't have to be aggressive. I don't have to be cocky. I don't have to be hard to get the respect that I want from people. I just got to show up, be organic, authentic, and for real about everything that I do and however I position myself to move. And so when I realized that I was being accepted by being that positive person in these
Yeah.
aggressive environments, then I was like, oh man, yeah, man, it's nothing about being hard and cocky, because now the hard and cocky people look at me and say, man, I respect what you're doing, bro. And so now that empowered me to a level of, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be speaking to the ones that the people are afraid to speak to, and push this type of information, a vibe or this feeling, you know. And so that changed my perspectives, because, you know, growing up, we feel that you got to be macho, the bravo, and the concepts of, you know, they got to know that we hard and not to be played with, so that way they don't. But ultimately, when it comes to, you know, you respecting yourself and you respecting your true position, because some people aren't in the positions to be hard. You're actually in a position to help those that consider themselves to be hard to rationalize their impulsive decisions and things, right? And so so I learned a lot from that experience. It's true healing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like when you use the term hard, right, people might parallel that to like the street life or the thug life, but actually it's funny because I participate in a program called Reclaiming Me through the WIN Foundation. And a lot of women, like the last session we had, we're kind of talking about being emotionally closed off, which is women's way of being hard, right? Where we just completely shut off and we're just on autopilot and we don't have no feelings. We don't, you know, we're just kind of like, so we're not even, that's not even healthy either. And a lot of times the hardness, whether it's metaphorically of the heart and the emotions, or if it's physical aggressiveness, right? That's just a manifestation of, again, trying to protect yourself. You don't know, you know, which way you want to go. You don't know who you are. And it's really fear. And that's what I found was like that hardness is fear. It's a fear of something happening. It's like, I better get them before they get me, or I better, you know, do this. And even as a woman, even though I grew up the complete opposite of you, I still put those things around me. And I still operated in certain ways that I thought were meant for survival. So now there's something I want to kind of segue into, and thank you for being so just vulnerable and sharing that, because this particular channel, right, the other outside of your, you know, the people that are following you, it's a network on the, you know, Mrs. Globe Network, which is, you know, a international housing organization, right, that funds the Women in Need Foundation. So we have a very different demographic than you probably talk to, but every woman, every person has experienced something incredibly challenging or potentially traumatizing, whether it's growing up the way that you did and having that experience, the election experience, or it's a person that, you know, had a divorce home, whatever it is, right? We can't minimize, we can't compare, because how the trauma affects you is how the trauma affects you. So thank you again. But I want to talk about, you talked about this phrase, and I'm not even going to try to say the acronym, but it means this is just a body. I love that. Like this, I mean, I kind of maybe have an idea, but I have goosebumps saying it. So why don't you break that down? Like, what do you mean when you say this is just a body?
So it's called to jab. So to jab, you know,
like,
so yeah.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
for the most part, right?
Did I do that right?
Right. So to jab came to me about I'll say about 10 years ago. So I was working out with a friend of mine, and I'm big on strength and conditioning and exercising, right? Conditioned bodies and condition, plural to the whole scenario. You know, conditioned body, conditioned mind. You condition the body.
Your odometer, Thrett, not you.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So when you look at the fact of a conditioned body is a conditioned mind, then you start to say that in order to be healthy, you have to think healthy. In order to get your body in shape, you have to mentally prepare yourself to do that, right? And so me going through a workout with a friend of mine, I was supporting him on his workout. It was making it hard for me to complete mine. And so I walked to the mirror one time and I was like, this is just a body. This is a whole little meditational thing. I was like, this is just a body. It would do what I tell it to do. And so I finished my workouts. And so every time I got ready to do my set, I ended up telling myself, and then at the end, I was like, TIJAB, this is just a body. And so now, when I look at the structure of it, everything is a body, right? Everything is a body. It's not just a physical concept. Your job is a body, you know, whether it's employees, work, salary, check-in, writing receipts or whatever, it's a body. If it's school, the homework, the teachers, the conversations, the engagement, it's a body of a situation. And so when we're looking at the body, once you learn how to condition your body, you can condition all of those aspects in your life. You just got to put the same mentality that you have to condition yourself physically, put that same mentality into your work. And I look at one of my worst aspects of my body to work out is my core. I don't like working my core, just like I don't like working with what I would consider people, right? I don't like working with people that I don't like. So when I had to do my abs, I'm for
well,
real,
who does?
right? Like for real. So when I looked at that, I say, so how do I think when I'm doing my abs or my core work? I put myself in a mental state and I get the results that I do want. And so when I look at the people like, oh, this is like an ab workout, this relationship with them is going to be a core workout. So let me apply that same method to get through it, to overcome it. The burning is like an annoyance, right? So the sweating is like a tolerance of this, whatever the situation may be. And so I've been able to overcome those situations every single time that I get into a situation where I find something to work something out. Like this phone. This is just
That's very powerful. It's almost like I could be like, if my head's messing with me, like actually it's so funny. So Dr. Tracy has this thing she says all women have like 17 personalities, and I feel like you probably would agree with that. So yes, you guys do. And she said there's one called number 16 who's kind of like the negative Nelly crazy one that always got something to say. But it's funny because I feel like now I could be like, this is just a mind. And you're going to think what I tell you to think, right?
yeah.
This is just the heart. You're going to feel what I tell you to feel. I love that. Like this could really go multifaceted. And I love how we take things in the physical and we can apply them to the spiritual and to the mental. And like today I did a post and I was like, why is it when we get a physical injury, we'll go to the doctor, we'll go get physical therapy because we want to get back on the court. But when it comes to an injury of the heart or the mind, we act like, oh, I'm not doing a therapist and I'm not doing all that. I'm like, I don't understand. I'm like, why would you want to take care of your physical body more so than your right, exactly. I love it. So one she said, like this phone. That's hilarious. Yes, this is just a phone. So because your phone is making me like dizzy. I was like, odometer threat. So but anyway, so I love that because I think that's so applicable. I hope you guys are getting that as a takeaway. You know, when you think about this is just a body when you're trying to work out and pump up the hill or do whatever you're doing. But this is just the heart, not minimizing the value of a heart, but saying, wait a minute, this is an organ, and you're going to do what I tell you to do, right? You're going to feel what I tell you to feel. This is just the mind. Really, oh, my mind's playing trick on me. Then stop it, because it's your mind. Stop playing, stop trying to take up space in my head, right? So I love that. Just like you have to push through a core workout when you're doing planks or you're on the ball or whatever you're doing, right? You're going to, I love that. And just sweating it out being a manifestation of getting rid of all of that. So I think that is so powerful and applicable, everyone, you guys. This is just the body, okay? Just so you know. All right. And now, the next question that I had for you is if you were, and I have a feeling that you probably actually come across this almost every day. So if you were with a person, male, female, doesn't matter, young, old, and they were at a crossroads of continuing in their life of pain versus choosing themselves, and again, we have this mindset that choosing ourselves is selfish. And I will always bring up what the airlines tell us. First, secure your own oxygen mask before you secure it on your child or your other, because if you're suffocating and dying, how are you going to help anybody else, right? So with that being said, if you're being with a person, you're at the crossroads of, familiarity, pain to what I know, to what I grew up in, I don't know, I'm not ready to take the risk, versus, you know what, I think I need to choose me. It might mean losing relationships. It might mean people don't like me anymore. It might mean it's a lonely road. What would you say to that person to encourage them on the road to choose you?
Great question. The first thing I would say is, like I said, yeah, no doubt. The first thing I say, especially with my youth, what do you want to do? First of all, let's figure that part out. Because one of the main reasons why people is all over the place, because they don't have a sense of direction. They don't have a determination to accomplish something. It's just all of these random thoughts or all of these different avenues that one can choose. And so it's like, what do you want to do? The moment that we can figure out what you want to do, then we start building a process or patterning around that thought, right? But without a thought, there's no direction. There's no momentum. There's no encouragement. There's no inspiration. There's nothing to be motivated for. So once we figure out what you want to do, like if I got a young cat and he was like, well, I'm stressing because of this, or my family's this, or my, my homies is acting this way, or the whatever. So I'm like, okay, so those are the problems and issues that are not yours. So when we figure out what do you want to do, and so they say something like, I want to get into, and so I'm like, if you want to get into graphic design, now we can have a conversation about how do we apply that. So once you start putting your time and energy into what you want to do, then you start to occupy the space in your mind with the things that it's going to take for you to do what you got down on paper. I don't like to sidetrack from that. Once we know what it is, then there's no, it's like a board meeting. You got a person that'll hold you accountable. We're getting off a track, so let's get back into track so we can keep the order of business in. So once we know what you want to do and you say, so how is it going to take to do that? Okay, so I got to do this. Okay, so that's one thing you got to do. So start adding up all of the steps that it takes to accomplish this goal, and you'll realize how consumed your day is with your own self and your own mind and your own journey and the processes of moving forward to accomplish that goal that you said you want to do.
So you would say to a person that's trying, you would offer that accountability, walking alongside them in that journey. So I think oftentimes people are afraid to choose themselves because they think it's going to be lonely, that people are going to reject them. So, possibly linking arms. So again, like for myself, I attend a weekly support group that, okay, it's okay. I can talk to a domino again, Thrett. There we go. But a weekly support group where I have that, where I can kind of just lean on that every single week, knowing that I'm going on the right track, that even if I'm by myself or I feel alone, that you can still keep going on. So that's kind of what I hear you saying. It's like, hey, you can do this, but you're going to need to be accountable. You're going to need to link arms with someone that is on the same page, that is going where you would like to go or believing in you. So I just, again, my biggest takeaway from this Thrett is I love that, this is just a body. I love that moment, that powerful moment where you were having that moment, your crossroads in that backyard, right? Where you could keep doing that thing or saying no. And oftentimes, I would try to help people get to a place before they get to their breaking point. Because I, like you, was on the Tacoma Pier in March of 2018, ready to be done and doing the same thing, weeping and saying, I don't want to do this thing called life anymore. And now, 3 years later, I'm trying to empower other people to say you can get over that, right? But it's a process and it's a choice. And so just like maybe we didn't choose the circumstance we came from, but we can choose to change that narrative. So I just, Thrett, really want to thank you so much. Again, you're a little bit different of a guest than you would usually have on this network, which I love, because I still think, everyone is going through things that maybe they're afraid to talk about with, the people that are in this category or that category, but someone that's just so real, authentic, and raw. I thank you so much for doing that. So again, everyone, you guys are watching second episode of Choose You, again, which is that show that is going to empower you to your life crescendo. I also want to encourage you guys to stay tuned. Our next guest next week, her name is Gwen DeVoe. She is the creator of the New York Full Figure Fashion Week, an amazing, powerful woman, and she will be sharing what her story is, as well as her thoughts on how to choose yourself. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thrett, thank you. Is there any last words you want to share with the viewers at all before we go?
Yeah, inspiration over motivation. I feel like stop waiting for people to motivate you to do the things you want to do, and inspire yourself by observing people doing what they want to do. So that's my thing.
I love it. I love it. Inspiration over motivation. I like that. Thank you so much. That spoke to me as well. All right, you guys. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next Tuesday at 9 a.m. for the third episode of Choose You. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.